Right, Alison, we are live and people are filtering in, which is brilliant.
We have a lot of people filtering in very fast.
Yes.
Yes,
Well, that's good, isn't it?
that's very good. And we are Hello 2026 in.
Well, yes. But we talk about that a bit later, don't we? Is it Hello 2026?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's a teaser.
Yes.
But we are in
Mm.
2026. And Laura, we have been doing these for 6 years.
Yes,
This is our
okay.
sixth one of these.
Yes. Incredible, really. And I think it really speaks to that sort of like power of repetition. I think the whole of this study speaks to the power of repetition, but I think we're never talking about a snapshot. We're always looking at that kind of long exposure. So it's exciting.
Yeah, and I mean, we've always taken them seriously, don't get me wrong. This time we have taken it particularly seriously, and we really started doing our predictions back in December because I think we are going to come on to talk about just how far reaching we think these are. But we have put a lot of effort in. And at the end of last year, we had a wrap session, didn't we, where we looked at last year's predictions and we had two very important clients come along and rate us on them. And we did well on those, I would say.
Yes, we were also talking to some clients about our Christmas predictions
We're going to come on and think about that. Yeah, yeah,
recently, which I
yeah,
think was interesting. So yes, sort of track record, I think, of predicting.
yeah. Okay, we know we've got more people entering, but why don't we start off? Because I think we've had a record number of people register for this
Mhm.
event. So looking down the list, we're long past the time, aren't we, where we know everyone's name on the list. So why don't we just very quickly reflect on who we are as a business and what we do?
Yes, absolutely. So we are Kokoro. There are two sides of our business. On the right-hand side, where we've got the microscope, this is our kind of deep dive side of the biggest business. It's kind of where our roots are really, and where the roots of a lot of kind of agencies are, where we help clients with specific questions, so sort of bespoke work. 6 years ago, almost 6 years ago, we expanded and moved into the left-hand side here and started our big study. We call this Subscribe. It's represented by a telescope because it's not just diving into specific client asks or client questions. It's kind of scanning the horizon, understanding how the nation is faring and what they're kind of itching for next. It's always on and it kind of alerts clients to the current landscape and where it's moving.
Yeah, and you could say almost the Goldilocks. So it's
Mm,
the middle of the Venn diagram, isn't it? Because I think they're the clients that get the visibility of the future and answers to their specific questions very much rooted in what is going to work
yeah.
in years to come. Laura, I'd like to reflect just a little bit on the subscription business and where that has come from. It's almost 6 years old. We interview 2,000 people every single week, and they're different 2,000 people every single week. We have just got an enormous database of knowledge. And I think it is the value, we see the value in that trend that really help us see into the future as well. And of course, it isn't just quantitative information. You have got the richness of 50 households as well.
Yes, and we speak to them really regularly. Some of them have been with us since the very beginning. It started off with around 20, 25 households, so we've added some freshness to it, but a lot of them have been with us for the long term, as have many of our subscribers. And I think that's just a handful of them there, but it really speaks to, I think, the need for kind of any brand in any kind of corner of any sector needing to be constantly scanning the environment and understanding what's changing for consumers.
Yeah, and of course, it's a very difficult thing to do, I think, actually. I am absolutely hopeless on your move
Yeah.
forward. I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to put you in charge of that today.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a very, very difficult thing to do. And in fact, we exist, I think, to close a gap, specifically the sort of empathy gap, customer centricity gap that exists in many businesses. And Laura, it's a very important thing to do. It kind of makes commercial sense. It's not just a nice thing to say.
Yeah, it's proven to make commercial sense. I mean, there's many studies into this. These particular numbers here are from Deloitte. It isn't fluff, it's absolute kind of results. I think the interesting thing is the difference between the promise of the results and kind of real reality. You can see some of the numbers down the bottom there. Some of them are ours, but also we've got sort of external numbers and genuine customer obsession kind of comes in at around 3, 5, 10%. There's a lot of room for kind of growth.
Yeah, because there are so many corners to an organization with which to
Mm.
get this information too. Laura, before we go on to look at our predictions for this year, we thought we would just reflect on our track record as an agency. We are very awarded over a very long period of time. And I put this up not really to boast, but just to say that we've achieved this status because I think we do great work and our predictions of the future do come true to a very large extent. We've won awards for a very long time, but I think if you navigate yourself to sort of 2020, when we started this particular study, the subscription part of our business, there's been an absolute step up since then.
Yeah, completely. I think that ability to kind of scan the horizon, understanding what's changing and baking that into every time we approach any question has been very powerful for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're at 2025. At the end of last year, we were awarded Best Place to Work, Best Agency. It did occur to me, Laura, that we haven't actually introduced ourselves at this point. So it would be a nice moment actually to say, wouldn't it,
Oh,
that
yeah,
I'm
why not?
founder of Kokoro. So it is very, very lovely to be awarded for our work, but also as internally being a good place that kind of works internally as well.
Okay, yes. So very quickly, I'm listening. We have Alison and Laura. So I have been working at Cora for around 15 years now and spent the last 6 years dedicated to this study. So
Yeah,
we have got a mega chart coming up,
we
haven't we?
have got to make a
We have
chart.
absolutely got a mega chart coming up for you. It's the kind of chart that people kind of photograph when we're doing kind of things kind of in real life. What we want to say to you today is there's no need to photograph things. You don't need to be screenshotting. There is going to be a way to get a complete copy of everything we're going to share today in terms of our big trends, our predictions, and all the evidence that goes alongside it. And there's an exciting way you can get hold of it all at the end. So we will be
Yeah,
revealing
it's even
that.
more than just getting the slides, isn't
Yes,
it? So
it
we'll be
is. There's
revealing that
extras this time.
towards the end.
So here it is, mega chart.
So yeah, drum roll chart. So on our survey, every single week, we have asked very early on in the survey, how optimistic are you feeling about life? It's a very open question. People can answer in any way they want. Laura, it is a question we tracked for the 10 years before we started this
Mm,
study as well. And it's fair to say that there or thereabouts, it sort of hovered at 45 and quite consistently,
mm,
actually, in the sort of 4 to 5 years leading up to the beginning of this study. Since this study, it has not hovered and it has never reached 45. And I guess for a lot of people, we kind of want to get back to 45. That
mm.
was the normal for a very long period in our life.
Yeah.
The exciting thing on this chart really is when we take a stand back, we can kind of see some really important periods over the last six
Mm.
years. I'd like you to sort of very quickly narrate them and sort of indicate the thing that triggers the tipping point from one phase into the
Mm.
next phase.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these phases are interesting, as you say, sort of repeatedly interrupted. It is that sense of there's not been a moment of after this, we're going to get to the other side. There's been a very long middle. So these chapters are interesting. We start in that green zone. Of course, we're plunged into lockdown. COVID suddenly becomes part of our lives. And there's a kind of roller coaster kind of through that as we work our way through different rules, different roadmaps, and all of those sorts of things. But we end in a kind of relatively good place at kind of Freedom Day. And then that sense of kind of one storm after another. There was lots of opinions on Freedom Day, lots of people in lots of different places at that moment in time. And before we know it, bill shock starts to set in. Cost of living crisis becomes kind of a recognised term. We've got bills, scary kind of energy bills. And of course, we go through a very kind of politically mixed time around then. It ends at kind of a real low at the end of Truss's time as Prime Minister.
Time,
I didn't know what else to call
minutes.
that moment. And actually, then we move into an interesting era of a kind of sort of stabilizing zone where we do start to move forward. Now, of course, this is still relative. We're nowhere near that 45%, but it is climbing. And, you know, you made the point that actually, will history be rewritten around Sunak? Was he a bit of
Or
a
will we
steady
just simply
influence?
forget the
Yeah.
steadiness of that? But
Yeah.
yeah, he didn't do a bad job.
And then we move into the moment where the election's announced, and we have a relatively brief period there in the blue of hope, and a sense of things could change, things could move forward, and to absolute time for change. Um, Unfortunately, after the Labour win, that sensation does not last very long, and we very quickly kind of moved into a subdued period. We have the riots, we have other kind of goings on within the government, and things we're kind of seeing from the US as well, and we move into storm and slump. Yet another moment of the middle.
Yeah. And I think Storm and Slump we talked about actually in our Hello
Mm,
2025 predictions.
mm.
And, 1 year on, and I think it speaks to the fact that we are talking about the future today. We are very much still in this storm and slump era of the UK. Now, Laura, we'll go on to describe a little bit more about what each of those terms mean, but you can see just from the words alone, they're very opposing
Mm.
forces for kind of a human to navigate their way through. And it is very difficult, isn't it, to cope with what is almost this sense of dissonance.
Yes, humans do not like dissonance. We enjoy feeling our way through life. Autopilot is a nice sensation for us. It's quite a kind of joyful, kind of easy one. And I think when we've got such conflicting sensations, that becomes kind of hard to navigate. There's lots of contradiction. It's not always a yes, it's not always a no. It's a kind of heap of constant kind of negotiation. And we find that kind of difficult to tussle with.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's sort of quantify each of these notions. So the first one is this sense of storm. And as storms bring huge change. And so when we ask people about the amount of change in the world right now, there's an overwhelming sense that we're living through this unprecedented era of change. It goes right the way through the age groups. And there are some very big things happening like climate change, war, AI. But we add to that sort of, the force of somebody like Trump, who makes that carnage feel ever more kind of
Mm.
complicated and scary, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. This is that sensation that almost kind of every day you wake up, there's kind of history happening.
Being rewritten,
Mm,
absolutely. And then alongside that, there is the weariness that comes with a
mm.
sense of sort of just decline, that the world's not coping. The UK specifically isn't kind of coping with all of that storm that's going on. And so there's just sort of a slumpiness around
Mm.
our own existence. And so we see on this chart here, fears of the job market on the bars there, they are growing and growing. The truth is, we're less concerned about our finances than we were a couple of years ago because we've made a lot of changes in our lives. So that constant sort of sharpening, taking mitigating actions means we're coping, but it does leave us with a sensation of weariness as we cope with the slump.
Yeah, I think it's that sensation when you look through your phone photo reel and see a lot of screenshots of, a good car park where you can save a bit of money from parking there or ideas. Those sorts of things. We're constantly kind of seeking ways to kind of make ends meet, ways to make today better. It doesn't add up to all that much. And I think that's that sense of slump that I feel the same as I kind of did however long ago. It
Yeah.
feels challenging.
So a year ago, we introduced the idea of storm and slump,
Mm,
but it is absolutely still there. And on this chart, hopefully, we kind of crystallize how we're feeling about
yeah.
this and personally. And I think we've taken all those mitigating actions. So in terms of our world, year on year, then we're no more worried about our own world than we were a year ago. But when we think about the world, things that are completely out of our control, well, they all sort of slipped in the wrong direction. So 2 million more people, and there's already a very high number of people concerned about those things, worried about the wider
Mm.
world. And so the truth is, Laura, and I don't say this to be gloomy, I say it to be realistic. And we come on to look at just how important it is to be realistic about this year. Very, very muted levels of
Mm.
optimism, I think, as we move into this year. So this isn't how optimistic, this is a different question about how hopeful do you feel that next year is going to be better than the last year? Well, last year wasn't great, and we're less sure that next year is going to be any better.
Yeah, absolutely. That sort of slump has become more ingrained and the storm become more wild. So we're less kind of certain that it's going to get worse, but there's definitely not a hope that it's going to be better. It's kind of the upside has kind of dropped out. And I think at this point, we would often be called kind of doom merchants, very kind of pessimistic. But I think the honest truth is that if you write this off as pessimism, you're kind of missing some of the dominant mindsets at the
You're
moment.
absolutely missing the John mindsets, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it because, and this is a big alert, you don't
Mm.
need to take the screenshot because we're going to let you have every single slide. But this is where we're feeling, this is how we feel as a nation at the moment. We are very, very aware. the world is awry and all of the
Mm.
storm and slump is going on. And we've been busy kind of thinking about how we could deal with that. Thought up solutions. We've got 2.8 million people more likely to be saying that now than at the same time last year. And yet, when we look at the people prepared to kind of move forward and take action on the back of that, only 0.6 million. So there's a big gap between those
Mm.
numbers, Laura. And so there's kind of this emergent sort of feeling of kind of yes, but.
Yeah.
Now, we don't like to hear that in other people, and we absolutely hate it in ourselves.
It's exhausting to listen to. Everybody's got kind of a friend or a colleague or, someone, a neighbor who's in that kind of yes, but zone. You think, oh, it is kind of challenging to listen to. It's that sense of kind of constantly burning energy, but getting nowhere. And I think we are feeling a sense of itchiness, unease, unsettlement, because we can feel it and recognize it in ourselves that we've got kind of a mind buzzing, a lot of kind of cognitive strain, but very little kind of physical momentum.
Yeah, and it's genuinely hard to take action, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because when you can't predictably know what tomorrow is going to bring, or the only certainty is it's a bit broken, that's a very
Mm.
hard stance to kind of move forward with. So I want to reflect on this slide, Laura, and I want to think about if you exist in a moment where you can think of things you should be doing, but you can't bring yourself to do them. You end up in all of the darker red bars of
Mm.
this chart, don't you? You end up feeling that you're behind where you want to really be, that you're a bit bored with what you're doing, and that you feel trapped. And actually, when we add those three bars together, that's 48% of the population tick one of those bars. That's 27 million people
Mm.
put themselves in those categories. Now, that's bad enough, but actually, the header of this chart is not do you feel them, it's do you hide them from
Mm.
other people. And again, we don't say this to be gloomy, but you feel even more isolated if you can't admit these things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think being able to name a challenge, a problem helps you kind of move forward. Anyone who talks about anything big sort of changing in your life often talks about, shame can't survive sunlight, all of those sorts of things. I think once you can name these things and face them, things can move forward. This is the proportion of people who are hiding this. This is a big problem, but I think the fact that it's a big problem illuminates enormous kind of opportunity for brands, and that's what we're going to be revealing
Yeah,
today.
absolutely. And the really odd thing is, if you could name it, you would feel a whole lot less lonely, wouldn't you? Because you'd
Yeah.
acknowledge that one in two of us actually are also hiding
Mm.
these things. Okay, so that's where we're at. The important question for today is what we're going to do about it. Because knowing, predicting what we're going to do on the back of these feelings is really the unlock to understanding how brands can help and get commercial return from this information over the next year. So I think, Laura, there are two big factors in terms of how we will respond to it. Now, the first is articulated on this chart here, and I think it's whether we ask ourselves, do we hold on to what we've got and just be grateful for
Mm.
that? Or actually, in all of these uncertain times, do we try and push on a little bit? Now, the interesting thing to answer that question, you actually have to know how you're feeling about where you are. And when we've asked people, are you falling behind? Are you trying to hold on? Or are you trying to make progress? Actually, you can see that most people ascribe themselves to all three of those states of mind. So, this is a surprisingly difficult question for people to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hear it roll off people's tongue. I mean, we so totally see this on the qualitative side of things. People say, I want to be grateful for what I've got. I really want to push forward on a few of these things. And you can just see the tussle, the kind of dissonance in where they're at. So we are absolutely at a point of kind of confusion and wrestling with where we're at and where we want to move.
Yeah, we're all trying to make
Yeah.
sense of it. I saw this headline in the Financial Times this morning about gold hits record because of Trump. Now, this is not just us, little old us, trying to make sense of it. The world can't make sense of it, so we go and buy gold. It is a very, very difficult sort of feeling to know where you're at and therefore what you should do
Mm.
about it. But predicting that, should I hold or should I push on? Very important. So the second dimension we think is really important in predicting where people are going to go next is whether they, at this moment in time, feel like they've got some sense of control in their life, or whether they're existing in a horrible sense of
Mm.
overwhelm.
Yeah, absolutely. That is critical, I think. And it's so understandable at this moment, isn't there, of storm and slump and all the things that we've tried to do, those adaptive behaviors. You can see some people absolutely have found order, and others really are in that sense of feeling kind of completely
Yeah,
overwhelmed.
because really what we want to do is push ourselves out of our comfort zone,
Yeah.
not to feel a sense of overwhelm. So we
Mm.
think those two dimensions are going to be really
Mm.
important. And the exciting thing about taking 6 weeks to come to these conclusions is it's given us lots of time to kind of consult other people along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a kind of early consult with Chris and Kirsty before Christmas, and then recently been consulting with lots of brands on these mindsets and predictions that we're going to be sharing with you today. So I guess the first thing to do is to say thanks so much for everybody's input because it really has been incredible in sharpening up our thinking and helping kind of move a lot of this forward. And in particular, there's a report that sits behind all of this that will be available. It's really helped us think about how that looks and feels.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, particularly kind of really sharpened up from a commercial
Mm.
point of view. So I really enjoyed those sessions. We want to do more in the future, but it genuinely, I think, has really helped improve this process. So, Laura, we talked about the two dimensions, didn't we, that I think are really going to shape what
Mm.
people do this year. So, one is about a desire to kind of move forward, the other is about the desire to protect. The other dimension is whether we feel we've got a sense of control or we are feeling in that sense
Mm.
of overwhelm. What we've been able to do is develop four mindsets that we've put on that chart. We're going to very quickly look at each of them and then we're going to return and look at them in more detail. It's important to say that what we've discovered is we all have a primary base, somewhere where we're drawn for big parts of our life, many parts of our life. But we said the world is a complicated time, our confidence is
Mm.
fragile, and so we can quite easily move between these zones at different times and for different aspects of our life. And we've managed to be able to quantify that over the last weeks. But what we're going to share today is the primary mindsets. So, Laura, the first mindset we've put in the quadrant of life feeling quite ordered and want to hold on to that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a sensation of being kind of quite grounded, quite settled. There's a sense of kind of familiarity in here, a little bit of ritual, a little bit of routine, simple things that take us back to us and make life feel kind of relatively calm. And it's kind of a low key, kind of quiet confidence, I think, for that kind of
Yeah, and their
mindset.
behaviors are kind of if it ain't broke, don't
Yeah,
fix it.
don't meddle.
Just stick with what you know.
Mhm.
Okay, the second mindset we've got on the top right hand side, and we've called that optimizing. So these are people who feel in control of their life, but they want a little bit more than they've got. But of course, it's not a time to go mad and take big risky moves. So these are people who are wanting to retain that order, but with a little bit of refinement at the edges so they can move forward.
Yes, absolutely.
Laura, talk about the third big mindset.
Reboot, really interesting. So this is importantly in that overwhelm space, but it is absolutely focused on moving forward. So this is about disagreeing, disrupting, moving things, finding kind of new ways forward. It's kind of throwing out rule books, a little bit working on workarounds, finding ways to escape.
Yeah. And the final one we've called aggrieved. So this is the quadrant of people who do feel slightly overwhelmed with the world. Often, and we'll come on to look at it, they attribute that more to the world around them than to themselves. They feel grieved with their position, and so they are looking to kind of just cope within this new era, but very much hoping that this new
Mm.
era kind of can get changed. So there we have our four quadrants.
Yeah.
For anyone who was with us last week, hopefully they'll be smiling at all of the changes of names. I think we've only kept one after all of that consultation. So thank you. I think they've ended up in a much better place because of that. Laura, I've popped onto this the number of people who currently fit in each of those as their primary kind of position. Talk to these numbers.
Well, I think they're really interesting because one of the first observations, I think, and this is kind of an optimistic observation, I think, is that there are more people in the top half of that chart in that sense of kind of order. We are, of course, drawn to order and control. So I think that that is interesting. That's where we see the kind of weight. But it's important to note that the people who are in that overwhelm space are still kind of huge portions of people. I think that the overwhelm space, that sense of a catalyst for change, a kind of noise, a loudness. There's a tussle there, isn't there? There's something to kind of resist against, kind of fight against. And so actually, I think that this is where a lot of noise is, a lot of volume. There's a lot on sort of social media, news stories, and things that would play into those territories. So I think maybe the sizing of it could be surprising.
Yeah. I would say, Laura, that in true Kokoro style, I think we use very clever techniques to get people to into these categories. We didn't ask people directly where they would put themselves. And I was somewhat heartened, and there was absolutely no fixing, incidentally, that 16% of the population, that's the 8.8 million there in the aggrieved, is almost symmetrical with the number of people who voted reform. I'm not saying they're overlapping, but I think it's sort of a similar sentiment, isn't it, that the world has gone wrong, and I'm very cross with the world. Okay, so that is the headline. These are these four very big major mindsets. Laura, we want to sort of bang this message very loud and clear because we get asked this a lot is, oh, is that here and now? You know, what's coming next? Well, this is next. This is for the foreseeable. This is as long as storm and slump continues. We believe these are the big four mindsets. And underneath it, we're going to reveal some predictions. And we think those predictions are here also for the foreseeable.
Yes, absolutely. This isn't Hello 2026 with a full stop at the end. We're always looking at 18, 24 months. So these will continue.
Yeah. So to frame where we are going, we're going to talk about these four mindsets, and we're going to very briefly talk about the three predictions that come underneath each of those mindsets. There's an elegance to this, and I think therefore kind of a truthfulness. It looks incredibly simple, Laura. It really hasn't been simple to get to this point.
No, it really
It's
hasn't.
embarrassing how long it's taken, actually.
No, there's been a lot of collaboration, iteration. Yes, very pleased where we've got to. But yes.
Yeah. And we should say that what you're seeing today is sort of the elevator pitch, if you like. There is a very sizable kind of report that sits behind it. Laura, you could just talk us through some of the things that are contained within this report. And it's probably worth saying, isn't it, that you can be bought at several levels, sort of a snapshot through to completely bespoke outputs.
Yes, absolutely. So this is something that is in flight at the moment. We are taking all of the conversations we've had with clients over the last couple of weeks to move this forward over the next week or so. It'll be in buyers' inboxes next Friday. We are going to take each of the 12 kind of predictions and help brands absolutely navigate them and see their kind of role to play. So it's full of kind of evidence as you would love to see it. I think sort of expressions of how things show up in the real world, as well as roles for brands to play, behavioral economic levers to pull, and kind of messaging hooks and kind of inspo for creative teams as well. So this is coming together.
Coming together very quickly. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's a snapshot of what we're kind of now busy behind the scenes. But let's now walk back through those four territories and the three predictions attached to each of them. So just a reminder, the anchored territory, this is a desire to protect what we have got in life and just sort of enjoy that sense of order and control in the mayhem of the world around us. Laura, how are you going to feel in that position?
I think this is quite a sort of settled, kind of calm sensation. There is an element of because you are kind of repeating, you're using things that you know work, they're kind of familiar routines or rituals or patterns. There's an element of feeling kind of quite grounded and quite safe in this zone.
Yeah, like having a smoothing cup of tea,
Yeah.
as you've chosen there. Okay, so that's kind of how you feel. Just to kind of bring this to life a little bit then. So we've looked here at intend to do in 2026. You've got all of mindsets, and then you've got the anchored mindset. And I think if you look at the numbers on the left-hand side, what it's really saying to us is if I keep doing what I know to work, then that's very, very likely to work in the future as well. There's just an irresistible logic about that, I think. And it's, of course, a very attractive logic if you find
Mm,
yourself in a pretty comfortable place in the
mm.
world. So it does actually skew a little bit on market. It skews older in terms of the demographic who's attached to it. Because when you've worked hard and you've got a lot, you don't want to let go of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot in here that really kind of cues to us. We've made good decisions and we are on track. We see it show up in a lot of just kind of everyday moments, and particularly when it's anything around kind of money and health, being really on top of things, sort of reverting to plans that we know will work. And I think there's a real joy around this when it comes to something like money, even if it's something kind of really exciting. Similar, samey weekend itineraries. We're never going to be totally shocked by what they cost because it is almost a kind of rinse and repeat. So there's a lot of sense of kind of safety here, but it is quite joyful, I think. It's kind of be appreciative of the little things, kind of enjoy these routines.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, this is an area that many more people would sort of gravitate towards on something like health and wealth, where they just want to protect really what they've established in life. Laura, another very key part of feeling anchored is having sort of firm foundations and amongst people, a support network. And so you can see this here, staying close to those that matter
Mm,
most. Being prepared to put my nearest and dearest
mm.
kind of needs first of all, and also find nice sort of ways of escape, little treats, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is that sense of kind of reassurance, that kind of nice, kind of cozy sensation where we do feel kind of quite settled, but really kind of buoyed by the people around us, kind of little boosts, little kind of moments that kind of give us a little sense of energy, and that this absolutely is sort of the good life.
Yeah. Okay, next, what we're going to do actually is attempt a little talking heads from people on our
Yes.
panel. Now, it makes me smile, Laura, because I seem to remember when we did this in lockdown, which was the last time we attempted it. So it was obviously very, very painful
It's quite
for us.
traumatic.
It was very traumatic. And I think we ended up having to reenact an advert that we were trying to show. So,
I was doing the voices. It was
So I'm hoping, I mean, I actually got letters after that of like, well done, but obviously that was quite flustering moment. So hopefully
yeah.
today will go more
We're
smoothly.
hoping not for overwhelm. We are hoping for order, but let's see how this works. So, yes, we're going to play a video. We aren't going to be able to hear it, so don't panic, but everyone else should be able to hear it. If you can't, there are subtitles, and if it is laggy, I apologize for that. And it is only 40 seconds. So let's give it a go. Okay, we've gone backwards. That's terrible. Oh, why won't this play? Alison, this couldn't be going worse. This could not be going worse for us.
Well, I think people might just have to listen to those in their own
We can't
time.
reenact it. We can't do it.
No, it's too much.
Heating's on,
Oh, there you
getting
go.
all cozy evenings at home, and in fact, a weekend at home. This weekend, we've not really done that much at all.
Just chilling, cooking some nice food. My husband's been baking some nice sourdough and things like that. And then we've just been catching up on a load of telly, and it's actually just been really, really nice to just sort of sit there and do nothing.
I just feel like I set myself goals, just to be happy, healthy, enjoy every moment with my family. And I'm someone who likes to make the most of everything. So yeah, I'm hoping this year is going to be a great one.
Stranger Things is coming out next week, so we've been talking about that, going to the movies. Some good movies have been coming out recently.
On a bit of a decluttering mission around the house. So yeah, I will tackle that again next week.
There we go. Well, that wasn't a disaster, hopefully. Hopefully other
happened.
people could hear that. It happened.
It happened.
How weird is it that we can't hear that? But anyway, that's for
And
another day.
it doesn't work if you use the mouse, but it does work if you use
Yeah.
that. But
Anyway.
anyway, not for today. Yeah, so a lot of kind of cozy, kind of comforting, kind of everyday kind of rituals, I think, captured there.
Okay, so if that's the mindset, what are the predictions in terms of what we are going to be doing? So I think the number one thing, and it is something we've seen this year, but we're going to see it continue, is close comfort living. A notion of, holidays are very expensive. Let's do them, but not maybe as many as we used to do. Let's stay close to home and make our home our first base.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think home being a space of complete kind of joy, we see kind of telly time and sofa time and that kind of, just quiet downtime and really, 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 really lift and be a real sense of kind of energy for people. But also, I think a sense that we are on the right track, this desire for home to be tidy and neat, and for us to kind of feel bolstered as we walk through the door.
Absolutely. So prediction number one, close comfort living. Prediction number two is lean into armor. Like we want it, we're drawn to it. It's in short supply in this world around us. So make it ours and make us stronger through a sense of order. Um, Laura, and we just heard it, I think, on that video. A lot of wanting our houses to be ordered, but other parts of our life too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so much here that is about things looking and feeling kind of quite ordered. It's kind of checklists, kind of straightforward rules, whether that's from kind of a process you should go through when thinking about something, booking something, ordering something, whether it's about how to get dressed, whether that's about how to kind of organize cupboards and things like that. I think there is just a real sense of kind of security and a sense of kind of satisfaction in things kind of looking and feeling aligned, more so kind of than ever.
Yeah, it's visible proof of success, isn't
I'm
it?
on it.
I'm
Yeah.
on it, absolutely. Okay, the third prediction under this mindset is one of selective connection. Um, this is, I think, a mindset that really leans into a strong support network, but also wants boundaries around that. It can't go too far. This is me and my gang where I can create my own rules, do my own thing. I can go out, know I'm not going to overspend, know when the night comes to an end, know I can get home, watch a bit of TV, and get to bed absolutely on time.
Yeah, absolutely. This is kind of socializing that isn't wild, that absolutely kind of fits into the order that I so kind of need in my world. It's kind of small dates, it's one to one, it's quite planned rather than spontaneous. It's a lot making sure it kind of completely works for me and sort of slots in. And I think a lot of this is about absolute kind of nearest and dearest. It is about sort of smaller groups rather than periphery. And there's kind of huge implications, I think, for brands as our sort of social lives change so much.
It is incidentally a Christmas that many of us will have just lived through, and we very, very much enjoyed that Christmas. Optimism was boosted through it and has now kind of burst, go back to really quite a low level today, I noticed. Okay, so let's summarize. Laura, there are 90 million people who we have put into this category as their first base through their behaviors in life. Our big report, of course, is going to have hundreds of brand activations, but if you had to elevate it into three simple guidelines, what would they be?
Like home is hub. It is absolutely a place of recovery, which can be quite kind of joyful rest, like a sense of, telly, all of those sorts of things, or kind of a sense of getting myself kind of back to where I want to be. But home, absolutely at the forefront there. I think routines and order need to feel beautifully simple. This isn't about it being easy, it's about it kind of feeling kind of effortless, and I think both to do but also the sort of satisfaction of having it done. And I think also that notion of really protecting our inner circle, and also within that our sort of inner peace, in terms of how we're interacting with people and how we are socializing, which is so much more sort of gentle, intentional and purposeful now.
Brilliant. So there we have it, anchored. Let's move on to optimizing then. So this is wanting to retain order, but also this sense of refining as well. So this is a kind of a moving forward mindset, almost 90 million people, so similar numbers of people to the previous group, and probably more important, I think, from a pound spend point of view as well, because there's a very heavy family emphasis in this group.
Yeah, absolutely, and a sense of kind of real kind of motivation and momentum for those who are here, and with that, I think the same motivation breeds kind of motivation, that sense of kind of hunger for a bit more.
Yeah. So again, just to sort of put some numbers around this mindset, this is very much a point of view where you feel I've built firm foundations, I've got control in my life, I can dare to move forward a little bit so I can grow from those firm foundations. It is an acknowledgement, I guess, that you can't do everything all at the same time. Slow and steady often wins.
Yes, exactly as you say. I think here we get a lot of kind of automatic habits, kind of set up systems, so you almost don't have to think, and you're not making kind of too many decisions. Be really kind of intentional, be quite kind of focused. That actually it's over time that you win on this. So this is about kind of consistency. I think all of those kind of images that we've all seen of kind of being 1 degree kind of in the right direction, where you can end up over time, really kind of come to mind here. So it might be kind of small switches, small ads, but they build to something that feels exciting.
Yeah, and I already said that a lot of families sort of are biased to this group, and particularly sort of the high dependency kind of years of having a family as well. And it absolutely makes sense, doesn't it? Because what you want to give your kids is firm foundation and progression. So, you know, it absolutely ticks that. An aspect of our life that it really applies to, Laura, is work-life balance. And I think when you think of family life and work-life balance, achieving good here is way harder than it sounds. There's more art than science attached to it. And it's like the actions you take today, you're never quite sure where they're going to go in the future.
Yeah, whereas when we said earlier, once you kind of name it, you can start solving it. I almost think that naming it and having this kind of common word actually creates a false sense of understanding what we're all talking about here. You know, work-life balance kind of rolls off the tongue, but having it, knowing it, really knowing what it really kind of looks like and which way it's kind of tipped too far one way or another is very difficult. Knowing what sort of time frame you should even be marking yourself against, I think here is really, really hard. And I think it is that kind of constant tussle that just when you think you've kind of solved it, you get pulled slightly one side of a line or another, and in either worrying about yourself in one zone or the next. So it's way harder than it sounds.
So we've got another video to bring this to life. I'll let you put that on, Laura.
Great, great. And yes, so this is speaking about kind of optimizing kind of in general in our world.
Just thinking about what's next for the next chapter of my life, you know, career-wise, family-wise, personal, mental health, physical, all of the different ways of well-being, and just kind of exploring that for myself.
I want to carry more to do with like my health, better eating, being more mobile, spending time with people that I want to spend time with.
We have a company share save option where we can buy shares at a 20% discount on the market price for a period of 3 or 5 years, and then you can sell them 3 or 5 years later. So I've actually gone into that as well each month.
I have been investing money, and I'm quite tickled pink at the money that comes back. I just look at it as free money.
We were looking at how many pickups we have like a day, and it's like 100 and something, which is crazy. So I'm going to download an app that like limits your screen time.
It's all about experiences next year for me. Turning 50, so I want to do 50 different things. Got an art exhibition early on, got concerts, theatre stuff booked, comedy stuff booked, and just want to carry on doing that.
Brilliant. Very good. So that gives sort of a flavour of some of the things people have been saying. Okay, so let's move on to the predictions here. So the first is the most obvious build from this mindset, and it is just a desire for patient progression. This is a sense to say Rome's not built in a day, the tortoise wins the race. It's definitely going to apply more to kind of known knowns, and there are surprisingly few of those in the world. But here's an example of what we want to achieve before the end of 2026. We want to sort of progress with all the basics.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, kind of known knowns, and just how challenging it is to kind of completely know these things, especially in a world of kind of so much kind of coming at us on social media. But yes, absolutely, as you say, strong foundations.
Okay, the second part of this is going to be the draw of everyday newness. Now, if you think progression is also almost predicated on a sense of newness, isn't it? To do something, to move somewhere you've not been before. So we are going to be drawn to it, but I think the everyday is there because, of course, we're not going to want new and radical and really expensive forms of newness. We put up podcasts as an example of newness because I think we literally can be inspired in very little ways by someone we really trust in our pockets.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether it's about really kind of learning something or understanding something, or it's just about kind of joy, there's a sense of kind of new stimulation from them, isn't there?
Okay, and the third prediction under this heading we've called measured curiosity. And again, it's the combination of words that is very important here. So I think there's an element of wanting curiosity to navigate through this difficult world. And of course, curiosity doesn't always need to cost money as well. But the measured part of this, I think, is that we want to name it, see it, because some of these things are going to be so micro that we might not actually know for certain that they're happening. Laura, there's a lovely example here of exercise and tracking of exercise.
Yeah, done outdoor exercises there in the white bars. You can see it's kind of starting to climb over recent years. But what's really rocketed up is our desire to measure that and be quantified and have kind of proof via kind of wearable tech. So absolutely, this is a sense of I want to see it kind of to feel it.
Yeah. Okay, so we have our optimizing mindset with the 3 predictions underneath it. The patient progression, absolutely like predicated of this whole mindset. Measure curiosity and everyday newness. Laura, 3 grand executions against this.
Help people think clearly. I mean, we talk about strong foundations, but actually they're a medley kind of mess of new kind of theories. So really help people cut through to what absolutely matters. I think make progress visible so it feels possible. That whole idea of action comes before motivation is so important here. And I think that work-life kind of calibration, give us different words and ways to explore this kind of never-ending pursuit of balance.
Because it's the one area that a lot of people flood into this space for. Okay, let's move into Reboot. So, as I said, about 8 million people escaping what is broken. And what is the feeling inside you that kind of really puts you in this mindset?
This is like a sort of a restlessness, a sort of a sense that I don't like these rules. I don't like where this is going, and a sense of being kind of up for it. There's an impatience, but we feel quite energized, I think, ready to like take a punt, find a way.
Take a punt.
Need to take
absolutely, yeah. We can't just keep doing what we're doing. And I think that's absolutely shown on this chart here. It's sort of the old saying that you're going to get the same outcomes if you do the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, this is an acknowledgement that what is happening isn't working. I need to mix it up. Now, it's interesting, isn't it? It requires a leap of faith, but I wouldn't say there's great evidence or great support systems for this out there.
No, almost. I think you see it almost quite differently. I think this is big in terms of social media. You'll see loads of sort of talking to cameras of let you into a kind of secret. And I think this really plays here, doesn't it? And I think for a lot of people, there can feel a kind of tussle between maybe what their parents say they always did and in the good old days, and this is the way, versus kind of advisors on TikTok. But there is a sense of like, we're going to try and circumnavigate this.
Yeah. Just want to point out that in terms of who sits here, it is, of course, very young, isn't it? They've got a lot to gain from moving forward, and an absolutely, I think, realization that old ways are not working for them. Of course, it skews a little bit more men. Men are more risky in their outlook in life. Laura, what we're going to do actually is show a video that is much more about money in people's lives, because it is an area that, of course, we play it steady a lot of the time and it's not working. People will become quite risky about money.
I'm always open to additional income and what other little bits you can do and get in relation to doing extra bits like Facebook Marketplace, which is quite good to earn a bit of an additional income.
Now and again, I'll sell things on Vinted when we've got some things of value to sell. So, yeah, just to raise a bit of money, something that I don't feel like I can just kind of give away.
I do a little bit of bar work here and there. I've done a bit of labouring with a couple of friends who own sort of building companies here and there.
I do a lot of cashback offers. I'll buy like Tesco vouchers to do my weekly shop so I can get cash back.
I'm experimenting with different things. I mean, even like content creation online, YouTube, if you can monetize these things through forms of content.
Okay, so I mean, maybe risky is slightly the wrong word, but we're forced to take action, aren't we? We can't sit in that inert kind of position. And so you see lots of different kind of ways there that people are talking about that. Okay, so 3 predictions under this. So if it doesn't work, hack it, basically. Of course, you know, we've seen this, you know, for quite a long time, things like the trade to own label. I think what we're seeing is it taken a step further.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are lots of ways in which we're seeking to get things at the kind of best price, for example, but there are lots of sort of slightly more edgy ways in which we're thinking about doing that, whether that's sort of sharing passwords, even sort of scanning things through that aren't those things, not scanning everything at the till, those sorts of things. And actually, you know, you don't have to look very far on social media for these to be sold as kind of hacks rather than positioned as sort of dishonest behaviour.
Yeah. So prediction, this is going to continue, double down, be bigger and bolder. The second area is visible reinvention. We've put up the example here of GLP-1s, but I think it applies in many different ways that this is, I think, a quadrant where you don't feel great about yourself. You are low on confidence. You're not where you want to be. And you potentially just want to look more confident than you have, than you feel. And so visible reinvention.
Yeah, absolutely. This is about a kind of almost kind of inner confidence, I think, that comes from how you feel on the outside. And I think there's so many people have been up against kind of challenging, whether that's how they feel about their smile or how they feel about their body, loads of different ways, I think, but have felt like they've met roadblocks. Finding ways that are almost kind of paths to a kind of certain future feels very good here.
Yeah, and I think, it's one of those areas, isn't it, where we probably think we know what good looks like. So in that known, this is one of those things.
Yeah.
White teeth is good, straight teeth good. I can do that.
Absolutely.
Sometimes in quite extreme ways, maybe. Okay, the third prediction we've called practical rebellion. So it's just not going to work. There's like physical constraints that stop me doing what previous people did. And so I've got to kind of mix it up. We give two great examples here. There are loads and loads of examples of this, of course, but the one on the left is people going back to live at home, having left once or maybe never leaving home, but 300,000 more people doing that than 10 years ago. Related to that is just opting out of the wedding thing, low key, maybe not bothering at all, I don't know, eloping.
Yeah.
Laura, there's a big knock-on effect to something like that. It's not just the people who choose to do it, it's all of the associated actions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's massive, isn't it? It's a huge kind of social occasion, all the different people it brings together, that idea of seeing the periphery of your circle or kind of family group and things like that. So I think there's a lot we're seeing in kind of practical rebellion and seeing in big ways, whether that's, not going to uni and doing an apprenticeship, whether that's choosing not to have kids, whether that's choosing to live in quite a different way. It's almost like, do you know what, that rule book? No, I'm going over here.
Okay, so just to summarize this then, we called it Reboot. It's escaping an old system. It's about visible reinvention, practical rebellion, and hacksmith. There's 8 million people sit here. How can brands leverage against this?
I think one of the most important and misunderstood areas about this is how important our outward appearance is, and that it's not about vanity, it is about confidence, and not the sort of confidence that comes from someone liking a picture or giving us a compliment, a sort of genuine inner steel of I have got things together and I am moving in the right direction. So I think that is very important. I think helping people with these unconventional rules, making sure that if they're doing things that feel like they're going to move, that genuinely will move them forward, they feel confident in them and maybe not swayed from that path and feel like they've got pals, but also making sure that they're not falling into the trap of quite damaging unconventional rules. And I think at any point in this zone, and particularly when it comes to money, quick, visible wins, feeling on the right side of things is so important here.
Yeah, because they want to see it. Okay, let's look at the final mindset, aggrieved. So this is coping under what they often see as not personal breakdown. I think the society has broken down around them. How does this kind of feel as a mindset?
I think this is a difficult sensation. This is one of feeling kind of quite worn down, maybe a little bit invisible, despite feeling like we're kind of speaking up for ourselves. It's a sense of struggle, I think, here.
Yeah. And so let's paint some numbers around that. So I think the big message around this mindset is they're just fed up. They're fed up with the constant shocks that have come along. And I think they feel that they've lost out at every one of those sort of intersections as well. So just years of kind of putting up with it, trying to protect what they've got, and yet actually seemingly just continuing to lose out more and more. And so it's interesting in terms of what they are drawn to here. So this is a group of people who are not drawn to that top left-hand side. They don't want to kind of just give in to where we've found ourselves. These are people who want a better life, for their life to be better again, not just kind of put up with it.
And I think that importantly, this is about the world around them. This isn't about a self overhaul, a load of kind of inner work. This is about a system reset, make the game play in my favor rather than me change the way I'm playing.
Yeah, and it is important to say that we've put 16% of people firmly in this category, but over half of us, for some aspect of our life, pop into this zone.
Yes, absolutely.
It's not unfamiliar territory.
The country isn't what it used to be when I moved here, and it's also not turned out to be what I thought it would be, but also going back is just not what I thought it would be like when I moved here, because things have changed, politics have changed, rules have changed, laws have changed, and it's just a much bigger deal, and it's very expensive.
The uncertainty at the moment due to, like, for example, the government and Labour and reform and cost of living crisis. 20 years ago or 10 years ago, you think, okay, so the standard is you buy a house. Whereas now it's like things are so expensive. It's like, can I afford a house? I have plenty of savings to buy a house, but can I afford one? Not really.
I need to say yes to me. I don't treat myself, every time I buy myself something, I feel really bad. I need to think about me.
Life financially has been the easiest over the last 8 or 9 months. It's been a real bite on personal finances, bills increasing, wages not matching it. Everything goes up, never goes down, and it's a worry trying to keep up with the cost of living.
You've got the Manchester attack, and now you've got the protests that were happening over the weekend. It's carnage. And it really feels like there's a demonstration going on in the world about what's happening, and there's no peace. It's hard work all round, I think.
What is our government going to do more damage to the country, to do more damage to the people that live in it? They're destroying the country.
Okay, Laura, so let's move on to predictions. So the first one, I think, is about selfhood wins. This is looking after myself. This isn't about firm foundations and a big support network. It's actually drawing a line and saying, no, I need to kind of look after myself. I think we heard that, didn't we, in a couple of those clips there. The second is kind of find a way of escape to kind of cope with it all. Of course, vices might fall into this category, but I think memes are a brilliant example of being able to cope here. Sort of laugh at the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Sort of skits and things like that you can really help you feel like you aren't alone, that you are seen, that other people kind of hold this perspective and can help you sort of share it and be silly about it with kind of friends and people think like you.
And a way of sort of talking about these things in a less kind of defensive, controversial way. Okay, the third prediction we've called defensive pride. It's perhaps one of the harder ones to describe, but I think whenever humans have something taken away from them, they almost want it more. And this is that sense, isn't it? That we feel that a lot of pride has been lost in the UK. There isn't enough resources to go around, and we want the UK to be stronger again. So this is sort of, I think, it's just a natural response to what we see as a broken system. In terms of brand actions, this has been one of the harder ones to write. We've got a longer list, which I think is more nuanced. But Laura, what would be some big territories here?
I think just recognition of just how challenging kind of big campaigning promises are, and all the complexities that kind of go alongside that. And I know we talked a lot about that over kind of recent events and things. I think a sense of offering support without asking people to do very much, to sacrifice very much. And I think absolutely providing kind of moments of relief, a kind of promise of a better future, not with the hard graft in between, but just a sense of things can be more buoyant.
Absolutely. Okay, so there we have it, our 4 mindsets, the 12 predictions. Laura, we've said several times, haven't we, that every single slide will be available to download. It's not just going to be available to download on its own. We're going to give people 24-hour access to our platform to be able to download it, but also to take a look at some of the wonderful things that we do.
Yes, absolutely. So this afternoon, once everything's up, I'll get an email out to everybody where you'll be able to access everything, as Alison says, explore even more than that.
Remember that this is the tip of the iceberg. This is the elevator pitch. There is a whole world of deliverables that sit behind this about how brands can leverage this insight for commercial good over the coming year. Laura, we have got 1 minute left. And so I thought it would be really nice just to finish off with We're 6 now, we'll be 7 by the time we do this again next year. What will have changed in our world in that time?
Well, we sat on 250,000 sample, which will feel even kind of more robust than we do now. And I think the importance of those longitudinal lines is only kind of going to grow over coming years. But of course, we will have delivered a lot to subscribers.
We'll have delivered 50 weekly reports, so people are absolutely in touch with what is happening in the nation. Every single week. We'll have done 12 State of the Nation reports, which is our monthly kind of view, not only of where we are at, but the important things to watch out for over the next sort of 3 to 6 months. And we are absolutely on the cusp of making some very big changes to our platform. So what you will see is like a really strong foundation, but I know in beta that we have got a lot of exciting things to come.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we're really thinking a lot about is our subscriber community. So we've had quite a few events recently, and we really want to do more of those. We are really enjoying them, and we think kind of clients are getting a lot from them. So we are going to be doing more of those. We'll be able to tell you about this time next year, and also more consultancy. We're seeing more and more people use us for kind of the middle of Kokoro, that mix of deep dive question but robustness of our study. And so I think, well, we love working on that sort of work, and we really see the impact it has on businesses. So I thought we'd put that up as an ambition as well.
Yeah, so kind of helping brands see further into the future through our predictions and our work.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining. Look at the time, Laura.
Not bad.
No,
Not bad, Alison.
yeah, very good.
Right, hey, thanks everybody. See you soon.
Very good. Bye-bye.